Retconning origin stories is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it can correct continuity mistakes. Other times, it can introduce them. But there's another risk that comes with retcons, especially when a new character is shoehorned into an already iconic and well-established story. It's the kind of risk that leaves fans divided. One of the most infamous examples of this is Venus de Milo from the next mutation. The idea of a fifth turtle, one Splinter accidentally left behind after the mutation, left many fans with what could only be described as half-baked fan fiction vibes. However, this wasn't the first time a show retconned the origin story to introduce a character. So why is one considered more acceptable than the other? That's something I'll discuss today, as I explore the Fred Wolf version of Mondo Gecko. The 1991 version of the character, played by John Mariano for the 5th season of the Fred Wolf cartoon, wasn't the character's original incarnation. Mondo Gecko was created for the toy line by Ryan Brown in 1990, and was adapted into the Archie Adventures before debuting on the show. However, the action figure and the Archie adaptation had different backstories. The most significant difference is that those were human first, while the Fred Wolf version was initially a gecko. It is essential to put this episode in context as well. 2 live-action movies had come out by then, and I think those influenced the other retcons in the episodes. To complicate things more, this was the only episode Gary Greenfield wrote for the show. So it's unclear if these changes were a continuity mistake or a showrunner's decision. Whatever the case was, the origin was changed to look a little bit more like in the movies. A pointless exercise, I would add, considering Hamato Yoshi is still a big part of it. In the new origin, instead of falling on Yoshi one day, the turtles fell directly into the ooze, which was now green instead of purple. But the turtles weren't the only animals bathing in the ooze. There was also a baby gecko. Unfortunately, a mysterious man known as Mr. X took the baby gecko away before Yoshi's arrival. In that man's hideout, Mondo grew into a half-boy, half-mutant, so Mr. X became his mentor, teaching him everything about breaking the law. Years passed, with the turtles never knowing they had a long-lost brother of sorts. Michaelangelo, however, started experiencing a recurring nightmare of a human hand taking a baby gecko and separating them at the moment of their mutation. Mikey needed to understand if this was just a dream or a memory, so he went to the place where they were mutated. His investigation was cut short after he heard an alarm. He climbed to the surface and ran into some burglars. One of these thieves was Mondo Gecko, who escaped into the sewers with the money. Mikey followed him, and after realizing he was a gecko, Mikey couldn't help but feel they already knew each other. Mondo managed to escape again, but Mikey followed the skate trail to a warehouse at the docks, where he witnessed Gecko and 2 thugs listening to their boss, Mr. X, who was talking through a speaker. Mr. X's plan was to hijack an army truck containing a new explosive device, with the idea of asking the military for $5 billion in ransom money. Mikey tried to convince Mondo not to steal those explosives, but the 2 thugs surprised him, and Mondo captured him. However, before they could throw him to the sharks, Mondo stopped the execution to check with Mr. X first. The criminals stole the explosives and dragged Mikey with them. He tried to tell his brothers about their plan, but one of the thugs discovered him and destroyed his communicator. Lucky for him, April was already following the truck after learning about the theft. She talked to the turtles, who now had both April and Mikey to worry about. Fortunately, Donatello had the Neutron Diviner tracking device calibrated to hone in on Mikey's biogenetic infrared code, meaning the turtles could find him if they passed near him. Aboard the turtle blimp, they located him at the Devil's Mountain. But they were almost too late. The 2 thugs decided to get rid of the hijacked truck with the turtle on it. So they released its brakes and let it go down the hill. And despite not having a driver, the truck turned on every single corner, which was quite impressive if you think about it. Mondo found out about the truck and raced it to rescue Mikey with his motorized skateboard. He couldn't understand why he needed to save his life, but he did it anyway. Mondo took him to the top again to see Mr. X. After meeting him, Mikey finally realized Mondo was the baby gecko he was having dreams about, and Mr. X was the man who took him away from them. Mr. X ordered Mondo to kill Mikey, but using a hypnotic trick from Master Splinter, Mikey made Mondo remember their shared origin. Not only that, but learning that Mr. X raised Mondo to be a criminal meant that he wasn't really a bad guy. He was simply raised that way. It was also revealed that Mondo had been having dreams about that separation event. Seeing how things were getting out of control, Mr. X got desperate, the thugs got clumsy, and a time bomb activated. Fortunately, the rest of the turtles arrived to save the day and deactivate the bomb. Having nowhere to go, Mondo decided to go back to the sewers, which was excellent news for Mikey, who was excited to have a neighbor. Mondo moved close to the turtles, and Mikey finally made a friend to skate with. The character made one more appearance in the 7th season of the show in the episode Dirk Savage, Mutant Hunter, written by David Wise. In that story, a bounty hunter named Dirk Savage was capturing mutants to allow an eccentric millionaire named A.J. Howard to create a mutant army. After he successfully captured Napoleon Bonafrog, Genghis Frog, Mikey, and Leo, the rest of the turtles decided to ask Mondo for help. The idea was for Mondo to get himself captured so they could find their missing brothers. It's too bad they didn't have a neutron diviner tracking device at hand to track their biogenetic infrared codes. A.J. Howard's plan ended up being even bigger. He was a mutant tricking humans into wearing a bracelet that would allow him to control them. Unfortunately, he already had mutants under his control, including the good guys, so it was up to Raph and Donnie to convince Dirk Savage to help them take down his boss and free the mutants. After the turtles saved the day, everything went back to normal, and we never saw Mondo again in the show. Since the Saturday Morning Adventures comic is set between seasons 7 and 8, it's just a matter of time until Mondo makes an appearance there. So keep an eye on it for future appearances of Mondo. This version of the character also showed up in the Mutant Madness video game, and was recently added as a playable character for the Radical Reptiles DLC of Shredder's Revenge. Of course, this isn't the only adaptation of Mondo. Aside from the Archie comics, he also appeared in the 2012 series, the IDW comics, and the Mutant Mayhem universe. I'll cover all the other versions in future videos. So, going back to the question of why fans responded better to this retcon of the origin, I have some thoughts. First, let's state the obvious. Mondo Gecko only appeared in 2 episodes of the Fred Wolf series, and his shared origin with the Turtles wasn't even mentioned again after his debut. On the other hand, Venus was a main character in the next mutation. She moved in with the Turtles, fundamentally altering their group dynamic. It's much harder for fans to ignore or accept a retcon when the anomaly is always front and center. So what may not have felt like a shoehorn addition in 1991, it probably did by 1997. And of course, the overall mediocre quality of the next mutation probably didn't help. Another factor to consider is that Mondo wasn't a turtle. So while his origin was borrowed from the brothers, at least he wasn't another turtle. In the case of Venus, I can imagine casual fans feeling like her whole thing was that she was a female turtle and didn't have much to offer apart from that. Of course, Venus wasn't as bad as many detractors remember, but I think her origin story didn't help either. Ironically, characters separated at the moment of their mutation continued happening in the Turtleverse. From Raph getting separated from his brothers in the IDW comics, to whatever plans were in place for the Turtles' brother and sister and the rise of the Tmnt. On a personal note, I feel like both characters were introduced in a fan-fiction-y way, and they should have probably been added in some other way without changing the origin story. Linking new characters to the origin artificially inflates their importance, something I don't think Mondo needed in the first place, as he was already a popular character. To me, additions to the lore done this way can dilute the origin. What's stopping another writer 2 years from now from saying that there was also a gerbil, a bunny, and a kangaroo present at the moment of the Turtles' mutation as well? Having said that, I'm actually happy to see Mikey having a new friend in the sewers, which is probably a much more comforting thought than all this origin talk. What do you think makes Mondo's origin more acceptable? Do you like this origin? Which one is your favorite Mondo? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.